Hello, beautiful, amazing, fantastic world, and you, wonderful individual. Today, I would like to speak about the upward curve of the soul's spiritual development and the downward curve of physicality. When we, just to put things into perspective, in earlier times before we became physical, condensed ourselves down into physicality and into sense perceptible reality, we descended further and further down, and we had to grab onto the animal-like beings that were down here on earth. And we had to, with our soul spiritual forces, work upon this body. They were kind of hideous. So for us to have it more aligned with our own inner soul spiritual faculties, we had to shape, change, and form these bodies, these beings. Over lifetimes and over repetition of these things, we become better at it. And, well, this is what kind of has occurred over a lot of development. Of course, when we grab a hold onto our consciousness and our thinking faculties, feeling, and especially feeling, is enormously important. And mastering our will, taking in the Christ principle, will definitely help, because it keeps a strong foundation for morality, love, and dedication to the cause. So, over time we have worked upon these beings, become more and more physical, because through the physicality, through going down, down, down into the physical, we were given an I consciousness, an ego. Also freedom, because we had the opportunity to err in two directions. And by standing strong to the right direction, that means the moral, loving, nurturing direction. You can argue and say that being cruel and brutal is the right way to go, but that more reflects your own values than reality, you see. Reality is loving and moral. It is all about how we see reality. So, based on how I see reality is how developed I am with my inner soul spiritual faculties. Even though I am developing myself, you don't necessarily do that. That is why it's important that we know and become aware of every individual's journey, so we can be supportive and helpful. So, when we had worked enough on these beings, on these bodies, there came a time where we had gone so far down into sense, loving reality, loving everything sensual and everything physical, and more or less become bound up and locked in and believing this to be the only reality, is when a new impulse, the Christ, came down to save this reality, or else we would just further and further down into until we were only purely physical, dried up mummies because the soul and spirit left this physicality. That is what would have happened if we hadn't that intervention from the Christ being. He literally put a new impulse of upwards, an upward curve in the soul spiritual. That is his deed. That is what he did through his sacrifice, his deed. It was a turning point. And this turning point is an upward curve as long as we do not become slaves to this one. This is an instrument of our ego, an extension of our ego. And we are meant to, well, again work upon this body, but not dancing it down anymore, but spiritualizing it upwards through spiritual, loving, nurturing thoughts and feelings. We have gone through many developments. We have gone through the Lemurian development, which, well, we destroyed it in fire because of black magic. Then we came to the Atlantean times. We destroyed it with air and water, thanks to black magic. Now we have in the post-Atlantean epoch. We are in the fifth one of the seven. And we will come to do the same as the last two times, only in physical matter this time. So from fire to water, air, or air, water, and now earth. What will earth be? It will be combat. It will be a war against all, because egotism will be so high, so rampant, that we will not be able to, well, connect through concepts and values anymore. That is what we are counteracting by building a stream that is strong even when such moral impulses are seemingly lost. They are, well, weaved into this earth development, so it is never lost truly. It is always here. It is always in our hearts. And it is about finding it, cultivating it, strengthening those powers, strengthening those inner faculties for love. Because if you just let yourself go without even thinking once about love, you will not be cultivating love. You have to weave it in consciously into your being. You are not given love automatically like that. It is effort, always. Today we are not coddled by the higher powers anymore. They have said clearly to us, we will not coming down again. So you better clean up your mess here. We are here to help you and guide you, of course. But we will not come down and save you from your own messes. And that is why there exists evil here. We introduced it. Because we needed to cultivate freedom. By knowing what the opposite of freedom is. We cultivate freedom. By knowing what the opposite of love is, we know what love is. So it is all about putting things into perspective, because if it is only a one-sided thing, you won't be able to see it from any other lenses. And that is why we take pictures from a tree from 4 different angles, so we can see 4 different directions from the tree, just as a symbolic example. And that is why we have the physical, the etheric, the astral, and the ego. And based on if you see it from each of these lenses, you see the world differently. So from physicality, you see physical sense perceptible forms, shapes, and colors, and so on. From your etheric, you feel what those forms and shapes give you. And if you find it beautiful, or if you are jaded and bored in life. And then from the astral is, where do you direct your longings, passions? Or are you letting them run rampant towards whatever you feel in the moment? And your ego, the leader of all of this, the one that is to unify and to harmonize all of these, so you become one full human being. Instead of having 7 heads and 10 horns, where you are constantly in conflict with yourself with the group soul. So you rather want to unite all of these 7 streams into one being, having 7 eyes and 7 horns, instead of 7 unrowdy heads with 10 horns. That is the difference. The being with 7 heads and 10 horns, you already see, if you see it as an alive being, do you even believe that these heads would be in harmony with each other? They would constantly fight. What happens when you have 7 streams in one being? They are united and harmonized, and are one being, although they are many at the same time. The future of mankind. Philadelphia. The feeling of these. And to cultivate what is spiritual again. Cultivate what is behind this physical sense reality. What is shaping it. What is budding and blooming the life and the flowers every summer. What is changing and transforming in the clouds, in the weather. What the forces behind it. And not trying to, because a billiard ball hit another billiard ball, that is the result of it. You see, a billiard player has to shoot that billiard ball. That's how it is. And it is the same with the cosmos. Nothing can happen and occur by itself. That is just silly to assume. There is no reality that ever reflects that. Of course, God can have a spark of creativity, but that is for him to have fun with, right? We do not ask questions about these things because we are we are we are not understanding and developed enough to do so. Obviously, I trust in the highest being, obviously, because he knows the love, the upward curve of the spiritual. In the future, this physical body, we will not be bogged down by it. It will be more just of a dwelling place for the soul and spirit. But we will be much more free than we are now, much less bound up by the body than we are now, unless we become black magicians and Nicolaitans. That means falling completely down into matter and believing that is the only reality. Of course, where some only see matter, we find everything. Everything speaks to us in that silence, in that nothing. Because where you look there is where you... Why wouldn't you want to look there? Find out the beautiful spiritual forces behind everything. You won't be disappointed, because you're participating and interacting with your own inner being, with your own being outwards. And you won't get bored, you won't get jaded when you sit still, breathing, contemplating life, reflecting upon maybe struggles, but also joys, strivings, and work and effort, but also things to overcome. And all in between. When you get a sense of duty, a joy for that duty, you are never bored again, because you are connecting to the present moment again. So instead of, I have to go take up my phone and check something to get that kick or to get that fix, or to watch a YouTube video, or no problem with watching a YouTube video or going on your phone, mind you. But are you doing it to get away from yourself? Are you doing it to get away from an uncomfortable feeling or a silent situation, or, I am really, really trying to hit the nail on the head here. It is because we are lacking in discipline and willpower. The will is deteriorating because we are giving in to any and every kind of temptation. And that is what the Christ strengthens against. Because we purify, we do not suppress and destroy and remove our passion. We purify it, directing it towards good. As I said in the last video I made, instead of being afraid of creating bad karma and creating destruction in this world, put out good things. Put out healing. From the Christ, healing is possible. He brings up uplifting, warm, loving words. Not words of despair, not words of, it's just how it is, not words of, we just have to accept, but there is hope in the future. If we strive towards it, there is always a way. And you know so, by you grabbing a hold onto your being right now, cultivating, mastering, strengthening in your devotion to the Christ principle and to the cause and to development and to growth and to the soul spiritual, you will be lifted upwards. And I will leave you with this today. Beautiful, beautiful silence. They are here, in the feelings, in the beauty of your thoughts, even in your will impulses. Are you allowing the good, the true, and the beautiful to reflect in that? Or are you allowing hatred, disdain, despair, and fear to dominate your inner being? You are the leader. and the one that is to master your inner being, so that every despair and feelings of darkness and such are pushed down, 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 so that they are shackled down in the underworld where they belong, and the Christ is filling your being on the earth. You are on the surface of the earth and not in the underworld anymore. And when you are on the surface of the earth, you are again connected to the higher hierarchy, which is outside of the underworld, you see. So come out of physicality and materiality and connect to the soul spirit again, to the love, to the warmth, to the understanding, to the connection, to the union and unification of humanity through individual freedom and choice. Every single drop, which is a human being in this case, you take every single drop and make it an ocean. But every single drop is uniquely colored, tinged, and have a unique sound to them. But at the same time, they glisten like a whole crystal, colorful ocean in uniqueness, but also in oneness. It is not a contradiction or a paradox here. We all work and live for the higher, the highest, and for humanity, and for the individual, from individual to individual, not from spiritual community to spiritual community. Where are you in that? No, from me to you, from you to him, from you to her, from you to them. And not hide behind a group, not hide behind something, but what comes out of your heart. Of course, when I say hide behind something, that means you are identified in, I am that, and then you just live from that. That is not a human being, that is that, you see? No, spiritual science, which is but a tool to understand, to communicate, and to show the world in a structured and a hierarchical manner, in a way that is alive, helps you enlighten and elucidate what it means to be a human being, and not something that we believe to be a human being. There you go. Thank you so much. May Father, Holy Spirit, Christ, Michael, the higher hierarchy, ancient masters of old, ancestors from every incarnation, bless, protect, guide, love you on your unique, beautiful path, and may you awaken to your heart and your own inner individuality, your freedom of morality, and your freedom of interest. Love you all. Goodbye.